because you know what the thing is? It's it's just going to be a never-ending cycle. Every time you're hurting, you have to revisit that thing. And if you aren't careful, it ends up becoming the thing that will kill you. That I was still very much on the run, and alcohol had become my best friend. I needed it. It made me feel sane and safe. It helped me drown out my thoughts, and I felt like I belonged because I was doing what everyone else was doing. Oh my goodness, I had such a low self-esteem at the time. I remember as well. I was just struggling. I wasn't having a good time. I really didn't like myself. I didn't love myself at all. And that's why I had this strong need to belong, and that's why I had this strong need to do what everyone else was doing. As much as you can take the horse to the river, you can't force it to drink water. So you need to want the help, and for you to want the help, you need to realize that you have the problem. What happens a lot of the times, all of the times when we are in situations where we are using things like alcohol and smoking and sex and food as a crutch, is that you are doing all of these things to yourself, and it isn't love. Hi community, welcome back to a couple. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope we are all doing well. I hope you are taking care of yourself. Happy new month. We are in April and this year is stopping at nothing. It is moving. It is moving so quickly. I actually cannot believe it, although this is how I have always remembered leap years to be. I don't know, it might just be me, but things are moving very quickly. Anyways, I'm very happy to be here. I'm very excited to be in a new month. Very grateful to the Lord for his mercies, his love, and his kindness. And very grateful to be here recording this week's episode. So, I had previously mentioned that I really wanted to share my sobriety journey with everyone. And I had intended to wait until the end of April because that would have been the 6 month mark, so halfway. But I really couldn't wait any longer. Something has just been nudging at me to talk about this, so I'm going to do just that. Just never know who might be needing to hear this episode now at this point in their lives. So the last drink I had was on the 3rd of November 2023, and I stopped drinking for various reasons, which I will get into throughout the episode. There are a few other things I want to share that I think are really important to this topic. So alcohol was never a big feature in my life. It wasn't a feature or part of my life at all, actually, until my early 20s. I never ever saw my mom drinking growing up. Neither did I see her purchase alcohol. There was never any alcohol in my home growing up. And my father only ever drank 1 or 2 glasses of his choice of drink at family gatherings. So I had never seen him drunk in my entire life. I'd never seen any of that. I'd seen him enjoy a drink, and I'd seen my mom never drink, but that was really it. I was also really Miss Goody Two Shoes at her finest during my teenage years, so you wouldn't have caught me even taking a sip of anything. And I guess it also had a lot to do with my upbringing and the kind of example my parents set. They were just not open to bringing alcohol around me. It was never a thing. So I really would have 100% felt like I was disrespecting them, even if I was not drinking in front of them. That's how I felt at the time. And that's another thing that motivated me to not drink. It's not wanting to disrespect or disappoint my parents. So, yes, I didn't drink for my teenage years. I only started drinking in my earlier 20s. When I got to university, however, side note, I'm a University of Pretoria alumni, and I really loved it there. What a time. It was such a good time. Anyways, as I was saying, when I got to university, specifically my second year of studies, so around 21, 22, I felt inclined to start dipping my toes in those waters. I was in the hub of student fun, student partying, student drinking, and Hatfield being Hatfield, there was always something happening, and I really just ended up getting FOMO. I don't want to lie. At the time, also, the company I kept were drinkers, but because I still stayed at home, I would not always be able to join them. So it started out quite slowly. Whenever I would stay over at a friend's house and we would go out, I would have a drink or two or four. And this was once every few months. At the time, just I felt like it was too little for me because I was I was so worried. Like I said, I had FOMO and I was really worried that I was missing out on the fun of being a young uni student, especially because I was in the hub, in the center, in the juice of it all, the vibe of it all. And when other kids were going to Hatfield Square when we were teenagers, I was not doing that. So I felt like I needed to catch up also. I felt like I was really missing out on a lot, and just that's not true. I realize now that that wasn't true, that I was not really missing out on anything. And then in my third and final year of my undergrad, I stayed in res, and that was freedom. The freedom was unmatched, and it also meant I could go out whenever I wanted to and not have any restrictions on what I could or couldn't do. I won't lie though, being able to live away from home did quite a lot for my independence and teaching me to be responsible and accountable. I did the living away from home for 2 years of my varsity life. So when was this? 2017? Yeah, this was 2017. I also have such good memories of spending time with my then friends, as well as just growing closer together as a friend group. So that was really fun for me back in my earlier 20s. I don't even want to lie. I don't want to make it seem like university was so difficult and those years of my life were so difficult that I didn't have a single ounce of enjoyment. I did. And I don't want to even lie or say anything else other than the fact that I had some really good friends in university. We also literally lived so close to each other that we could just text one another and impulsively decide to go out for a drink or go and get nuggets from McD's at 10 or even 11 or even midnight. This was all before COVID. So a lot of places like McDonald's were operating 24 hours. And there was another place called Rhapsodies, which was where Hatfield Square used to be. So it closed really late. So sometimes my friends and I would go, oh, let's go get a glass of wine or let's go get a cocktail. And it was nice. It was nice to experience that kind of freedom, the luxury of being able to just cross the road and be at the restaurant of your choice, or cross the road and be able to get an ice cream or nuggets or chips or whatever. So yeah, that was nice. It was fun, and it was great that I could bond with my friends and spend time with them, and we were just conveniently in the center of everything. So everything was really close. If you know Hatfield, then you know that there is a very busy street called Burnett, and I lived in one of the residences there. So there was just always something happening. It was very busy. If it wasn't cars racing, it was taxis hooting, or it was just students out and about and having a good time. And my favorite time when I was a student at the University of Pretoria living in that area was summer, because Pretoria, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the middle of summer is very nice. So being outside would be really nice. It would be like such a nice fresh breeze, and then I'd be around my girls. And again, it was a good time. But on the other hand, I remember that that was also the year where I started developing a really unhealthy relationship with alcohol. I was partying and drinking quite a lot at the time because it was fun, yeah, and why not? Because my peers were also all doing it. So I got sucked into that whole I'm young, free, and there will come a time where I can't do it anymore, so let's go off. I became so reckless, especially with my safety, because I would get so drunk And the next day, not even remember how I got back to my room. That is so unsafe, especially as a woman in this country. I know things have gotten worse, but things were still bad back then. So I was really not taking care of myself. I was putting myself in a lot of danger, and I was just putting myself in a lot of risky situations. I remember my friends and I at the time walking in the streets of Hadfield in the early hours of the morning, drunk, which wasn't safe. We were walking around drunk as women, and that was not safe at all. What I also had not realized, or maybe I did, but didn't actually want to face it, I just wanted to ignore it, was that drinking had become better than feeling for me. So, yeah, I was having fun, yeah, I was being young, but drinking was the thing that was starting to make me feel numb, and I liked who I was when I was under the influence and when I did not have to deal with the trauma I was experiencing in that year. So much was happening personally, and alcohol had become my crutch. I look back on it and I can see it. It's very evident that that's what was happening. It stopped being about having a good time, because you could go out one weekend with your friends and have a good time and then find something else to do the next weekend, like going out for lunch or going out to play pat pat or going out and painting, doing pottery. There are so many other fun things to do, but I was now drinking and consuming alcohol as a coping mechanism. So, yeah, so much was happening personally for me. And like I said, I was now depending on alcohol to be my refuge. On top of what was already happening, there were existing issues. My aunt, who was also my godmother and pretty much a second mom to me, passed away that year, and that hit me so hard. It was very, very difficult. It was the last straw that broke the camel's back for me. I was struggling so badly. And also because of who I was back then, I could not bring myself to talk about it to anyone around me. When I say who I was back then, I mean I didn't know how to receive help. I was only used to giving it, and I was also really ashamed that I was just carrying all of these things. I was ashamed that I was feeling the way that I was feeling. I felt like I needed to be stronger, and I felt like there were other people that I needed to be there for. So there wasn't really time for me to what I would have called mope and sit in my feelings. So I was just drinking. I was consuming a lot of alcohol. Wow, I was struggling so badly. Yeah, and so alcohol became my drug, that and partying, and it became unhealthy. And so I carried it into 2018, which was my honors year. That was another year of dealing with more challenges and realizing stuff. And then in 2019, my parents split up, and then it got a lot more worse. I remember buying 2 bottles of gin, and within a week and a half, I was down to not even a quarter of the second bottle. I remember my mom sitting me down and saying that she's worried about me because in the mix of all of that, I was also partying. I was also going out. And at the time, I was so deep in it. When she was talking to me, I was like, she's just trying to ruin the fun for me. And she really doesn't get it. And she really won't understand. So she had expressed to me that she is worried about me and that it is not like me. And yeah, I just didn't want to hear it. And again, when you aren't in a place to hear constructive criticism or to receive help, you're going to think that people are against you. So I'm sure we can tell at this point that this has become a serious problem. I was really battling here, and my mom was so valid and for saying that, and she came from a place of love. It was because she was seeing that I'm going through 2 big bottles of gin. They weren't small, they were big. And I'm also going out and I'm just not in a good place. I'd also gained so much weight. I was just in such a bad place. My skin looked so bad. And I just didn't want to acknowledge that it was a problem. And it also didn't help that we went into 2020. Pandemic happened shortly after. That also really threw me off because, like many people, I was home sitting with my own thoughts, which I didn't want to do. That was just too much. I couldn't go out partying or to just be occupied by being around other people. So then I always made sure to have a drink. I always made sure to stock up on alcohol when the alcohol was open again. I wasn't having a good time when the alcohol was closed because if everyone can remember, there were restrictions at some point and the government had decided that we can't drink alcohol. And I wasn't going through hectic withdrawal symptoms, but I was craving alcohol really badly and it felt like something was missing because I wasn't drinking at the time. So when the restrictions were removed and we could buy alcohol again, I definitely did that. I stocked up. I always had wine, I always had champagne, I always had gin, I always had Dash, and then I sought comfort in food. That became my second source of comfort. And there was just so much going on inside of me, and I would pretend that I was fine, but deep down, I was struggling. I was having such a hard time. And again, that thing of not wanting to seem like there's something wrong with me and not wanting to be a burden and understanding that or believing that just because of there are other people around me that need me, I'm not allowed to feel my own feelings. And you know what, guys? There's nothing more important than just allowing yourself to acknowledge and process your feelings without picking up a drink, without picking up a blunt, without smoking happily, without feeling the need to have sex so that you feel a sense of relief or so that you feel however you're trying to feel about yourself. Because you know what the thing is, it's it's just going to be a never ending cycle. Every time you're hurting, you have to revisit that thing. And if you aren't careful, it ends up becoming the thing that will kill you. So you can easily develop an addiction to alcohol, to drugs, to sex, to food. So yes, I just highly recommend that you sit down with yourself and try and make sense of the things that are happening inside of you and want for things to be different for you. I was listening to a podcast episode. The name of the podcast is Diary of a CEO, and he had a psychiatrist or psychologist on, a Harvard trained psychiatrist, psychologist. He has his own practice, he has his own channel called Healthy Gamer, and he was saying that if there's one thing that is absolutely true that he knows for sure as a doctor, that he can only help people that want help. Because as much as you can take the horse to the river, you can't force it to drink water. So you need to want the help. And for you to want the help, you need to realize that you have the problem. So yeah, just going back to where I was, last time we were in 2020 and I was struggling through the pandemic, and then 2021 came and I got swallowed into an even deeper habit of drinking and partying because I ended up working in a place that had an oversupply of both of those things, which became very dangerous for me. At first, as I'd always done, I would find ways to justify my drinking. Oh, it's just for the vibe. What would everyone around me slash my colleagues think of me if I didn't join in on the fun, on the party? I was also deep in the depths of people pleasing, so I was still very allergic to saying no, even if it was for my own good. Yeah. If you are somebody that has struggled with people pleasing, you will know what I'm talking about. But yeah, what else was true was that I was still very much on the run, and alcohol had become my best friend. I needed it. It made me feel sane and safe. It helped me drown out my thoughts, and I felt like I belonged because I was doing what everyone else was doing. Oh my goodness, I had such a low self-esteem at the time. I remember as well. I was just struggling. I wasn't having a good time. I really didn't like myself. I didn't love myself at all. And that's why I had this strong need to belong. And that's why I had this strong need to do what everyone else was doing. I could have said no. No one was forcing me to do these things, by the way. I could have said no, but there was just so much going on inside of me. So much was wrong. I was really unwell. I was very, very unwell. And like I said, alcohol had become my crutch. So, yeah, I, as long as I felt like I belonged, even if it was toxic, I would find a way to make it healthy to me. I was drinking every weekend. I was drinking every single weekend and partying for most of those weekends. I was also overworked and stressed and underpaid and exhausted. And wow, alcohol was the thing that was making me feel good. I also started smoking heavily. You know that thing that fills your lungs up with water and that is just bad for you? It's literally been equated to smoking multiple packets of cigarettes a day. I started smoking happily, and that was my new addition to numbing myself. I'm going to go back and say it, I didn't love myself. And I was aware what Hubley was doing, but I did not care to stop because I was more concerned about not feeling numbing myself and trying to justify it than I was about actually taking care of myself and actually acknowledging that there was a problem. And again, I'm not bashing myself back then because I didn't know any better. But what happens a lot of the times, all of the times when we are in situations where we are using things like alcohol and smoking and sex and food as a crutch, is that you are doing all of these things to yourself and it isn't love. You aren't looking out for yourself. That's just the truth of it. So, yeah, but I didn't stop there. It was just never enough. This had now become something that was not ending. I think I would be right to say it was a snowball effect that was happening in my life. In 2022, I started smoking weed. So you see, it was just not enough. Well, more than I had in the past, anyways. I had tried it before, but never smoked it consistently. So I had tried it when I was like my second year or my third year of university, but it was never really consistent. And I didn't really care for it much back then until I realized that here's another thing that can help me numb my pain. So, yeah, the thing about pain is it becomes heavier the more you let it fester. And my goodness me, my pain had festered. At first, my crutch was alcohol, and then it became habli, and then it became weed. I had found a new or additional escape, and it felt good to not feel for that hour or two because when you have smoked weed, you become so high and you feel so numb. And that's what I liked. It was an escape. I could run away. I didn't have to think, I didn't have to process. I could absolutely run away. And that led to so many other things. It led to me treating myself even worse, staying in situations that I shouldn't have stayed in because I was just constantly running and I didn't want to face anything, and it started to affect every other part of my life, relationships as well. So yes, I was so unhealthy, and not just physically but mentally and emotionally too. My life was in tatters while I was trying my hardest to pretend that it wasn't. My habits, they continued until August of last year when God came in, guns a blazing. He said, I'm deconstructing all of your hiding places. I remember beginning to feel that something wasn't right in my life around April or May of last year. That voice, that gnawing thing at you, that's, I can remember. I remember that it was happening like that for me at that point in time. And then what's interesting is I said to God, and by the way, I did not even have a relationship with him at the time, but I said, Lord, if there are people, places, things, or habits in my life that are not meant to be there, please remove them. when I tell you, when I tell you that the big man didn't waste any time, I'm not joking. At the time, it felt like my life was falling apart. because I started losing a lot. It was a little bit, and then it became a lot. I also actually realized that without even seeing it at the time, God had already started to pick away at the things that needed to go in my life in 2021. But it was subtle, and I was not really interested in seeing it from that perspective at the time. I was just like still on the run, still trying to hide. But there were questions that had started popping up in my head back in 2021 already. And I know that had I answered them at that time, then the things would have started happening at that time. But yeah, a time came when God had to intervene, because I was still in a place, don't want to lie to you guys, I was still in a place where I felt like I'm not ready for certain things to happen. Even though I said to God, remove them, I was like, I don't want to move. I'm not ready. I asked the Lord for this, but I'm not ready. So he had to intervene. He had to do it. He had to come to my rescue. And yeah, I felt and saw most of that last year. 2023. What a year. I did not know who I was. I felt so empty and I was broken. I was heartbroken as well. And in the in between, I was still consuming alcohol because, it had always worked in the past, but something was feeling different this time around. I still wanted to drink. So the thing is, I still wanted to drink, but it wasn't going down well in my body. I would drink and feel physically ill. I would drink and there wouldn't be that enjoyment. So I said to myself, maybe I just need to take a step back a little bit, because this is clearly not something my body wants for now. So I did. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, the last drink I had was in November of last year, and I really thought that it would be a short break. But then God said, nope. I remember I did ask. I did ask for those things to be removed, for the things that don't align with God's plans for me. So it's not like I didn't ask. I did ask. And it's almost as if he was waiting, but also not he was waiting. It just happened to be the time when things needed to happen the way they happened. So yeah, in August of last year, my heartbreak, I experienced like a very difficult period. It led to me rededicating my life to Christ. So I know now that my desire to stop drinking alcohol had something, or a lot to do with God having control in my life. I had initially stopped drinking because it just wasn't sitting well with me physically anymore. But then many other things came up, which is why I never went back to it, such as the fact that after rededicating my life to Christ, I stopped running away and started confronting my deep rooted traumas. And I eventually stopped needing to use alcohol as a crutch. So I got therapy. I went for help. I got help. I went for therapy. I started applying the exercises that I was getting in therapy in my day-to-day living. I just started to open myself up more to God and share with him the things that I was going through at the time and that I had been going through for most of my life. So yeah, God started having a big influence in my life, and his voice became clearer to me. He definitely convicted me about consuming alcohol, even on the smallest scale it had to go. I wasn't going to be doing a glass, nothing, not even a sip. I also started to envision my future, and nowhere in it could I see myself drinking alcohol, not even a glass. It just wasn't happening for me. It really, really wasn't happening. And another thing was, when I realized how much more present I was in moments that needed me to be, and how much more at peace I was without alcohol, I realized that there is no going back, and that I just have no desire to drink alcohol again. And I do also want to be honest and say that it was not smooth sailing all the way. I craved alcohol for the first 2 months of being off of it. I really, really did. But eventually the desire went away. And now I don't have a desire to drink anymore. And I don't see myself ever consuming alcohol again. For me personally, there is no benefit. It won't make a difference for me. I can enjoy many other drinks without putting alcohol in them. I just don't see the value in it. And like I said, this is also something that God has made it clear to me that needs to go. And I'm so grateful that I do not consume alcohol anymore, because it has really taught me to stop running and hiding. I don't run and hide anymore. I feel what I need to feel. I don't even have the desire to be numb. I really don't have the desire to be numb. I do want to feel everything that I need to feel to the fullest. And again, this took time, because as I have explained or narrated throughout the episode, I battled with confronting my issues. I would find an escape. I would look for a corner to hide in until the big bad monster went away. But the thing is, the big bad monster never went away. It just grew bigger and bigger, and that meant that I had more things to run away from. I needed to accelerate the level at which I was now numbing myself. I needed to increase the dosage at which I needed to numb myself. And when I ended up being in a relationship with God, when I gave my life over to Christ, something just started changing inside of me, and it's something that you really have to experience. I can only explain it so much, but God saved me. I also know that my mother's prayers saved me, my grandmother's prayers saved me, my siblings' prayers and their love and just the support, that all saved me. But most importantly, God came to my rescue. And He continues to do that every single day. And that's just what is just so phenomenal to me, is that God doesn't get tired of being my savior. He doesn't get tired of being my father. He doesn't get tired of being my teacher. He's incredibly patient with me, and He does not get tired of correcting me and supporting me and showing up for me from a place of love. It's never because I can do something in return for Him. There is nothing that I can do in return for the Lord. I don't have that power. I don't have that amount of influence. I don't have that strength. Only God has that amount of power and influence and strength. So yeah, I'm definitely never going to drink alcohol again. I'm glad that the desire is gone, and in general, I no longer have a desire to run and hide. So a lot of things that were very unhealthy that I used to do have fallen away. I haven't smoked weed in 7 months, because I stopped smoking weed way before, like in August. 7 months, 8 months. I haven't smoked hubbly in, I think it's almost 2 years, because the last time that wasn't 2021. Yeah, it is almost 2 years that I haven't smoked any hubbly, and I had actually stopped that because I could feel that my body was not able to take this anymore. And just a lot of these things are not worth it, guys. It's not worth it. It is harder to deal with your pain. It is more challenging to deal with the things that you need to face head on. It is much harder, and I will always commend anyone who has decided to fight that fight. It's really difficult. I have been there. But rather that than needing to constantly be smoking something or drinking something, rather that than destroying a body that you only get once. You only get that body once. You really, really do. And I've mentioned this before, but you cannot replace, you can't buy new organs, can't buy new lungs. You can get a transplant for organs, but you might have to be put on a waiting list. You probably will be on a waiting list. And then in the meantime, you are hung up on machines. And no, it's just not worth it. It really just is not worth it. So as hard as it can be to deal with hardships in our lives, I say rather let's fight. Let's fight to deal with those hardships. than to destroy ourselves beyond repair. So yeah, I'm so grateful that God intervened. And although it might sound really crazy, I'm grateful that my heart was broken so that I could turn to God for help, because otherwise I don't think that that's something that would have happened. I realized I needed Him when it felt like my heart would never be okay again. It also became very evident that literally nothing and no one could fix the hurt or make it go away. I needed more, and the only more that I needed was God. The only more I could get was God. The only more that was the real truth was the Lord. There is something that the Lord did for me and my heart that goes beyond fixing. He took me and lovingly and mercifully held me in all of my brokenness, all of it. And it wasn't just a broken heart, but traumas that were now surfacing and coping mechanisms that I'd previously been using and needed to get very honest about. And at first I was engulfed in shame. I struggled so much to pray or to open my Bible. I struggled so much to be honest with the Lord about what was going on inside of me, about what had been going on inside of me for the past couple of years. I was scared of being judged or shunned or punished by Him. But now that I know better, I just want to let you know that that's not who God is, and that's not how God treats His children. And reading the Bible, praying, worshiping the Lord, surrendering myself to Him every day, living as He asks me to, and getting to know Him more and more has shown me that over and over and over and over again. It really has shown me that God is not out to hurt you or torture you further. He wants to love you. He wants you to be well. He wants good things for you, and He doesn't want to hold your past mistakes over your head. I promise you that taking your heartache to the Lord and just laying your entire being at His feet will change your life. It will. All it takes is surrender from that moment until you breathe your last fleshly breath. Being in a relationship with God will also change how you see yourself. It will change how you value yourself. It will strengthen how much you love yourself. It will teach you to be more empathetic, kinder, more loving. You will have a more open heart, a more teachable spirit. The desires of your heart will also change, and just how things look in life will look completely different to you. Yeah, now that I don't drink alcohol anymore, or smoke weed or habli, I am so much happier. I don't want to lie. I allow myself to feel my feelings, and I work through them in healthy ways, such as praying when it all feels like too much, or reading the Bible, or just writing down how I feel, worshiping, sharing my struggles with others so that I can get advice and support, because we need other people, and not sharing for someone to enable me or to feel sorry for me, but for them to give me wise counsel. And that's why it's also really important to surround yourself with people that are wise and that are not going to lead you astray. I'm also a lot more expressive of myself and my feelings. When someone has made me uncomfortable or they have hurt me, I confront my issues. I'm a lot more present in my everyday life, and I don't have the desire to drink or smoke anymore. I stopped making running away a habit because I realized that that's just the easy way out, and I don't want the easy way out in life. The Lord took me in my brokenness and He reshaped me. He formed me into someone completely different who wasn't drowning in pain anymore. I'm really not. It's important to accept a situation for what it is so that you can get the help you need. And I'm so grateful that I have access to things like therapy, lots of love and support, and the love and grace and guidance and mercy of the Lord. So, yeah, I really am sharing all of this to say that you can get out on the other side of battling with using certain things as coping mechanisms, battling with being addicted to certain things, even certain ways of thinking, certain ways of being. And you can absolutely do it without needing to feel ashamed or afraid, although those are probably very inevitable things that you're going to experience, the shame and just the worry and the fear, but just hold on. If it's a journey that you choose to go on, hold on to the hope that you have, that things will look different, that things can get better. Hold on to where you are trying to go, because if there's one thing that I also know is that even though at the time I didn't know how to stop, I didn't even know if I wanted to stop, they always felt like there was something that I wasn't supposed to be doing. It always felt like there's just something that's very off, and what was off was that alcohol had become a coping mechanism of everything. Even though I was using happily and weed to cope, of everything, alcohol had become my biggest crutch. It had become the thing that I had said is my hiding place, and I still felt like there's just something that is not it. Did I feel it strongly enough to stop at the time? No. But eventually I had to deal with my stuff, to deal with my things. And I'm so grateful, because things look a lot more different for me now. My life looks completely different. I'm a completely different person, and there really is no going back for me. So you can do it. If this is something that you want for yourself as well, you can do it. Let my story be a testament that you can do it, and that you can get to a healthier place, because I am in a healthier place. My skin looks really good. I don't even want to lie. My skin looks so good. I feel really healthy. I feel stronger mentally. I feel stronger emotionally. I'm also able to I have a stronger command over myself. I'm able to control my feelings, my emotions. I'm still working on controlling my thoughts, but we will get there. It's all a work in progress. But it feels like I have overcome one of the biggest hurdles in my life. The one thing that was holding me down, the one thing that was continuing to reinforce certain ideas that I had about myself, that I just wouldn't get out of a certain place, state of mind, that I'm broken beyond repair, that there are things that could never ever happen for me, and that in order for me to be likable, lovable, seen and heard, I needed to do whatever it took, even if it was continuing to feed an unhealthy habit, an unhealthy addiction. So, yeah, guys, I really hope that this episode will be of value to somebody. I hope that it will help someone. Please, if you know of someone that it can help, if it's not you and you know of someone that it can help, please share it with them. I really hope you enjoyed it. This is where we are ending this week's episode. My goodness me, I'm so grateful to the Lord for carrying me through talking throughout the entire 44 minutes now, going into 44 minutes. I'm just looking at the timer on the recording app, but I'm really grateful to God for carrying me through each and every recording, this one and every other one, through carrying me, through sharing things that I never thought that I would share. I just never thought that I would talk about my struggles with alcohol and other substances. I never thought that I would openly speak about this, but He has given me the courage to do so. And I also understand that what is the most powerful thing is to learn from other people. So listening to podcasts where people have shared certain stories and shared their experiences has encouraged me not to even set foot in that direction. And yeah, if I can be that for someone else and I can share my story and it can help them out, then that is exactly what I'm going to do. So yeah, please don't forget that you can listen to A Cupful on all listening platforms. If you want to put anyone on, please let them know that they can go to TikTok just to test the waters, because I post snippets of episodes on there. The handle is at A Cupful Pod. Please, if you haven't yet, give it a follow. And like I said, if you want to share this episode or any other episode really, you can send your loved one a link, or you can send someone who you think would like to listen to this a link to the episode. Yeah, on WhatsApp or wherever other platform, via email. That's so dramatic, but you could do that as well. And yeah, again, don't forget that all listening platforms, A Cupful is available on there, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music, as well as Google Podcasts and Castbox. Yeah. Yes. Have a beautiful remainder of this week. Rest when you need to, work when you need to, be kind to yourself and be kind to other people. Remember that even though you have made certain decisions, you have gone down a certain road, you can still come back from that, and you can still make the most out of your life, and you can still be the best version of yourself ever. And most importantly, don't forget to keep doing the things that fill your cup.